thanks for joining me. I'm back here with another region video, and this is just going to be a really quick video. I'm starting out with exercise number 40, which is on page 12 of the Advanced Methods for Flute Volume 1 book, and then the other one is on page 18, and it is exercise number 68. So these are both scales in thirds, and the first one, exercise 40, is the E minor, E harmonic minor scale in thirds. And I'm gonna say the exact same thing that I've said for similar exercises that I've looked at before, which is, you know, we don't want to play it any faster than you can comfortably play it and 100% accurately. So don't play it any faster than that. Work up faster. Let's see, we want to strive, of course, for the most beautiful sound that we can. And you know, we can do that by trying to keep the throat open, make sure you're sitting up straight so that the air can just flow through you as much as possible, so that we don't have a pinched or closed off sound, especially as we get into the higher octave. And even though this is just a scale in thirds, whatever, it's just a boring scale, we can still try to make it musical and maybe something a little more interesting to listen to. Personally, I like doing that. You know, there's not a whole lot what we can do here. It is just a scale. But you know, we can do things like pushing and pulling on the tempo, emphasizing certain notes. Maybe throw some dynamic contrasts in there, maybe some retards at the end of the line, that sort of thing. Now, I think that the best thing to do here, if you can, would be to try to do each line in one breath. I feel like that's pretty doable. So that would be my suggestion for that. If not, try to make it every 2 bars, so that you have 2 breaths per line. Okay, so like I said, this is in E minor, E harmonic minor, and so I'm just going to play this here for you now. So there we go. There's exercise number 40. Pretty straightforward. The next one, which is 68, which is on page 18, this one is actually a B minor scale in thirds. This one is actually B melodic minor, because we're raising the 6th and 7th on the way up and then lowering them back down to the natural on the way back down in thirds. So if you are like I was really afraid of 3rd octave notes for a long time. 3rd octave fingerings are difficult. They're a lot of times really different from the fingerings in the other octaves. You know, there's plenty of notes that have the same fingering in the other octaves, and it's just a matter of airspeed as to which octave you actually hit. But the 3rd octave fingerings are really very different, and I was afraid of them for a long time. And so I can see that being the biggest issue for a lot of people with this particular exercise, and also getting a nice sound in that octave. Those are often really difficult to produce. But try to think about your airstream. So you're as you're getting higher in the octave, your embouchure tends to flatten out just a little bit, and the corners of the mouth might come back a little bit more. And try to think about your airstream, first of all, heading more towards the ceiling. We want our airstream pointing up rather than across or even down. Those are different octaves. But also as your embouchure is sort of flattening out to get to those higher notes, the aperture, the space between your lips, also gets smaller, and the airstream becomes very narrow. It's very, you should have very fast and much cooler air for those notes. And I like to think about the airstream for these notes as being sort of like a very focused, laser pointer. The light doesn't go from a laser pointer, doesn't go all over the place like, say, a flashlight does, but it's just a very focused stream of light. And that's kind of how you want to think about your airstream for these higher register notes. Also, if you find yourself having a little bit of difficulty with getting the fingerings, getting the notes as you get higher and higher, you might try doing something that I really love for difficult passages is using alternating rhythms. But before we get into that, let me first just play the exercise for you in the first place. Okay, so there's the exercise itself. Same thing applies that I just mentioned about the other ones, about being musical and all that kind of stuff. As far as the alternate rhythms go and trying to get this particular exercise nailed down a little bit better, so I like to do long, short. I like to change the rhythm and do long, short, then short, long. And occasionally triplets, which probably I won't do here. So let's start with the long short. I really like doing the alternate rhythms because I feel like it does a couple of things. First of all, it gets the pattern, the notes under your fingers in a couple of different ways, or even 3 different ways if you do the triplets. And it also gets it into your brain in a few different ways. And then you go back and play it as usual, as is written, and it just seems so much easier, it makes more sense, and it just flows. I don't know, when I've used this with students or even myself, 99% of the time it fixes whatever the problem is. So I highly, highly recommend doing this. So I'll just play the first line, and I'm going to start with long, short. So long, short, long, short, long, short, which sounds like this. Okay, and I usually like to do that several times, even working it up faster and faster. And I like to play it 3 times perfectly before I move on to do something else. So if you get to that 3rd time and you mess it up, you go back down and start from 1 until you can play 3 times in a row perfectly. So that's long, short. The other one that I like to do is short, long. So just the opposite, short, long, short, long, short, long. Sometimes it's hard to wrap your brain around the opposite at first, so really listen and make sure that you've got the right rhythm going. Oftentimes I hear students slip back into the other one, so make sure that you pay attention and make sure that you're doing the other one. Okay, so that sounds like this. Okay. And like I said, you could also try triplets. That's usually the most difficult one. Sometimes it doesn't work out to be even. That's okay. You might have, 1 note less or a couple of notes more or whatever. It doesn't matter. But this one is the most difficult. Sometimes it's hard to make it sound like triplets. Sometimes it's hard to read something that is not written in triplets as triplets. I don't know, it's hard to focus your brain on it. This one really makes you think. I'll try it. I don't know how this is gonna go, but I'll try it. I don't know, that didn't really sound like triplets to me, but I tried. Like I said, it's kind of tough. And that really almost sounded just like the pattern as is. So anyway, I would give those three different rhythms a try if this is a problem for you, or on anything that you have issues with. So try all those, make sure you do them well several times in a row. And then go back and play whatever it is as written. And I promise you will just see so much of it. It feels like it takes a long time to get through, but it is time well spent, I promise. So that's all I have for this video. And next time I'll come back with an actual piece from this list. So thank you so much for watching. I hope it helped.